This was Donald Trump's worst nightmare. The entire world is laughing at him on this Sunday. Perhaps the most disastrous day of his presidency is happening right now. Donald Trump had that humiliating dictator parade yesterday in Washington, D.C., where barely anybody showed up. It looked like under 10,000 people were there. Low energy. It was a complete and utter mess. In contrast, the No Kings protests across the United States were a smashing success. At least 5 million Americans showed up to protest Donald Trump. It could have been as many as 10 million or close to 3% of the entire United States population, which is a huge number for mass mobilization, showing up to protest Donald Trump. Peaceful, joyous protests. And then you have the split screen of Donald Trump stewing in his own misery yesterday. He was inconsolable, as it looked like he was about to cry when he saw what a pathetic disaster his dictator parade was. Now, California Governor Gavin Newsom is getting in on the action. He's been ruthlessly mocking Donald Trump each and every day, bullying the bully into submission. You love to see it. So California Governor Gavin Newsom this morning posted, "God bless America," with an American flag, and made this incredible supercut contrasting the successful, peaceful No Kings protests across the United States to Donald Trump's disastrous dictator parade. Take a look at this video that Governor Newsom just posted. Let's play it. And folks, supercuts of Donald Trump's disastrous dictator parade are spreading across the world. Even in Russia, they are mocking Donald Trump for being weak and pathetic. I mean, previously, you had Putin showing all of those nudes of Melania to mock Donald Trump. And now the Russians are trolling Trump by showing images of his disastrous dictator parade. Here's one that's gone mega viral there. The caption says, "How Trump imagined his parade, what he actually saw." Donald Trump is a disgrace to the entire world right now and making America look utterly weak. Here, let's play this clip. Now, as Donald Trump is stewing in his own misery, he spoke with ABC reporter Rachel Scott, and he was asked about the war between Israel and Iran taking place right now in the Middle East. Donald Trump told ABC News' Rachel Scott that, quote, "It is possible that the U.S., quote, could get involved in the Israel-Iran conflict." In other words, Donald Trump is keeping the door open that imminently American troops could be sent into Middle East to fight another war there. Donald Trump has not given any address to the nation. He has not provided clarity about what his plan is. That's, of course, because he has no plan at all. But what else would you expect from someone like Donald Trump, who is beyond incompetent to even be in the proximity of the position that he now holds? Instead, Donald Trump is posting ranting and raving messages like this. During this morning, he posts, "Iran and Israel should make a deal and will make a deal, just like I got India and Pakistan to make in that case by using trade with the United States to bring reason, cohesion, and sanity into the talks with the two excellent leaders who were able to quickly make a decision and stop, exclamation point. Also, during my first term, Serbia and Kosovo were going at it hot and heavy as they have for many decades, and this longtime conflict was ready to break out into war, wars in caps. I stopped it. Biden hurt the longer term prospects with some very stupid decisions, but I will fix it again. Another case is Egypt and Ethiopia and their fight over a massive dam that is having an effect on the magnificent Nile River. There is peace, at least for now, because of my intervention, and it will stay that way, exclamation point. Likewise, we will have peace soon between Israel and Iran. Many calls and meetings now taking place. I do a lot. I never get credit for anything, but that's okay. The people understand. Make the Middle East great again, exclamation point. Oh, so that's your plan, Donald? You're just going to do these social media posts that are not even complete sentences, that are just a bunch of lies, messed up word salad mush, and that's your big plan right here? I mean, you could literally break down almost every word of this, and everything he says is a lie. Oh, Donald, yes, you were the one who negotiated the ceasefire between India and Pakistan with trade, but then there's no trade deal with India. That makes a whole lot of sense there, Donald. Or we can listen to what actually the foreign minister and the Prime Minister Modi of India are saying, that you had nothing to do with the ceasefire, and the ceasefire was negotiated through a bilateral discussion between India and Pakistan, and India finds it very disrespectful and offensive that you keep trying to make yourself the central figure in the ceasefire when you had absolutely nothing to do with it at all. And then, like the pathetic, vile individual you are, you blame Biden for war prospects when under former President Biden, he actually withdrew the United States troops from wars. And we actually had peace under former President Biden when you were trying to scare everybody with World War III, when in fact, under you, we've already seen a major war basically break out between India and Pakistan. You have not resolved the war between Ukraine and Russia after Russia's invasion of Ukraine in 24 hours, as you promised. You were bragging yesterday that Vladimir Putin called you on your birthday and you were taking advice about what to do in Iran from Vladimir Putin. You said the Department of Defense then said Happy Flag Day, posted a image that had the Russian flag on it. So no, Donald, I don't think that you would be someone who I would trust to be involved in any type of peace negotiations here at all. And then your description of the conflict between Serbia and Kosovo as, quote, hot and heavy just shows at your core you are just a vile and perverted, disgusting individual, a felon, a sexual abuser, a bankrupter, a perennial lifelong loser who has basically defrauded people their entire life. And you want to see what a vile piece of trash he is, as inconsolable, whiny man baby Donald Trump this morning is still completely upset about what went down at that disastrous dictator parade. Here's what he says about Minnesota Governor Walz after the horrific assassination that took place yesterday of a Democratic state representative in the state of Minnesota and her husband, and the attempted assassination of a Democratic state senator and his wife. The assassin is a guy named Vance Bolter, who the right wing tried to claim was like a Democrat and Governor Walz's friend. They spread all this disinformation. The guy is a Trump supporting right wing nutcase like Timothy McVeigh. And the truth had to come out after the New York Post and all the right wing spread all of these dastardly lies. But what's Donald Trump doing while Governor Walz of Minnesota is acting like a leader? Well, let me tell you what Donald Trump is doing. Donald Trump says the following in a phone interview Sunday with Rachel Scott of ABC. Well, it's a terrible thing. I think he's a terrible governor. I think he's a grossly incompetent person. But I may call him. I may call other people too. That's what you have to say about it. You don't get more vile and despicable than that. And a lot of people, by the way, are asking me when I prepare my video news hits and hot takes, where I get my research from and what are the research tools that I use. I'm always happy to share my research tools. One of those tools I use is called Ground News, and they have a feature called Blind Spot, where I don't just see what's being reported out there. I get a sense of how much right wing is covering something, how much the left wing is covering something, what's the quote unquote center covering. I just want to see the spread of information diffusion. It's helpful for me when I start my mornings to say, okay, what are people focusing on and why? So I think ground news is an essential tool for my research, so I'm going to share it with you. You can go to ground.news/MTN, ground.news/MTN, or scan the QR code. We're giving our viewers 40% off Ground News's top tier Vantage plan, which will get you unlimited access to everything that I use here. It's subscriber funded Ground News. They don't rely on ads that can introduce bias, and subscribing supports our channel and our independent team here. One more time, it's ground.news/MTN. Scan the QR code. We're giving our viewers 40% off Ground News top tier Vantage plan. Use the research tools that I've been using. Let me show you what else is going on this morning. You have the MAGA Republicans, by and large, pushing for American boots on the ground in Iran, basically sending American troops to fight a war in the Middle East. Here's what Lindsey Graham had to say. Here, play this clip right here.
If diplomacy is not successful and we left with the option of force, I would urge President Trump to go all in to make sure that when this operation is over, there's nothing left standing in Iran regarding their nuclear program. If that means providing bombs, provide bombs. If that means
busting bombs,
whatever bombs. If it means flying with Israel, fly with Israel. The worst possible outcome for the world is to take the Iranian nuclear program on and leave it standing. That will be a disaster.
Senator Blumen.
Similarly, you had MAGA Republican Senator Cotton. Here's what he had to say.
Its offensive missile capacity, that the window to actually stop Iran from entering that zone of immunity was rapidly closing.
But why Thursday night? There seems to be a difference in the idea of a sprint.
Well, as President Trump said on Friday morning that he had given Iran 60 days to make a deal, and that was day 61.
He scheduled talks on day 63. You know that. I mean, this wasn't really a hard deadline.
He gave them 60 days, and on day 61, the strikes began.
Day 63, Steve Witkoff wanted to meet with him.
On the other hand, you had MAGA Republican Senator Rand Paul. Here's what he had to say.
If Iran refuses this offer of the United States, I strongly believe it is in America's national security interest to go all in to help Israel finish the job. How do you respond to Senator Graham's call to go all in and help Israel finish the job, Senator?
Well, his initial response was game on, and I don't consider war to be a game. The hundreds of thousands of people that potentially will now die on both sides. You know, for a couple thousand years, we've had this discussion over what is just war. Not only our civilization, but other civilizations have had this discussion. And one of the things that many people came to a conclusion was that preemptive or preventative war wasn't just. And so there is that. But there is also the idea that what happens to Iran, you imagine what happens in Iran now. Do they coalesce around their government, even though their government is unpopular? Does nationalism thrive? And you would think that they would probably be less likely to want to negotiate at this time, particularly when they may feel that negotiations were a ruse to put them at ease until the bombing happened. So I think it's going to be very hard to come out of this and have a negotiated settlement. I see more war and more carnage, and it's not the U.S.'s job to be involved in this war. Iraq was a mess. Afghanistan was a mess. And one of the things I like about President Trump is he has shown restraint. And so I think his instincts are to not be involved in this war, but there will be a lot of pressure from Lindsey Graham and others to get involved in this war. And I hope that his instincts will prevail.
All right.
And we have Democratic Senator Schiff. Here's what he had to say. Play this clip.
Said the city would have, quote, burned to the ground without his aid. Do you think local officials had that situation under control?
Yes, I do. And, you know, let's call the president's statement what it is, and that's just a flat-out lie. The idea that Los Angeles would have burnt to the ground, it's absurd. These demonstrations were taking place in a multi-block area in a city that is 500 square miles. Our police and our sheriff's office and our highway patrol are more than capable of dealing with this. And if they won't, and they weren't, then the mayor and the governor would request the help of our guard. That was not done. It was not necessary. And I think this is just Donald Trump doing what he wanted to do in the first administration, which was essentially use the military for domestic law enforcement to make himself look tough. In the first administration, There were at least a few people in the cabinet of some independents who could say, no, Mr. President, that's a lawless idea. That's a stupid idea. But there's no one in this current administration to tell the president that's a stupid idea. It will make matters worse. And there are nothing but sycophants, the Stephen Millers and the Kristi Noems and all the rest of them. And so we are seeing this terrible escalation, this increasing lawlessness. The district court was right to find it lawless. Now that Marines are engaged in an arrest, at least one arrest and detention, then that will be challenged too, and I think that too will be found to be lawless.
MeidasTouch did get a shout out on Fox News this morning for getting at least 22 million views every 2 days. It's now closer to 28 million as I'm recording this. Dan Coe talked about California Governor Newsom's very successful address to the nation, which was exclusively streamed here on the MeidasTouch network. Let's watch that.
What's interesting about what he's doing is not just what he's saying, but where he is saying it. He had an exclusive on the MeidasTouch network with his address to the nation, with 2 million people seeing that. MeidasTouch is getting 22 million views every 2 days. He had Brian Tyler Cohen, a YouTuber, into the Emergency Operations Center to do an interview. It just shows that I think he's learning the lessons, candidly, of 2024, that Democrats didn't do enough to communicate more to independent media, which I think is exciting.
And one more time, why don't we take a look at that video that Gavin Newsom posted this morning. God bless America. Here, play this clip. There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. Hit subscribe. Let's get to 5 million subscribers and have a wonderful day.
New Meidas merch drop. Check out the latest pro-democracy sticker packs, t-shirts, hats, sweatshirts, and more. All at store.meidastouch.com.